Have you ever wanted a place where you could get coached for free? That's exactly what I did in this video, and I got an insane amount of VODs, which ended up with me covering them on a basic field and much faster so everyone gets their turn. I hope you enjoyed this. If you want more content like this and like the way I analyze things, do consider joining my Discord for some professional aim coaching with verified results. Let's get into it. Alright, so we got a lot of entries here in the free coaching video, and I haven't watched a single one. I'm just going to get into it. I'm not going to be able to cover each one, but let's just go ahead with Chip. I struggle to adjust when in a tap strafe fight. I feel I can't move my mouse in a straight line. It's always curving. All right, it's probably like your dick. Okay. His starting point is always off. You can see that. 3 gunfights, his starting point is always off, and he shoots before you adjust. So you move your mouse and you click at the same time, and you have a reflex style of aim. But also, more importantly than that, you don't flick, adjust, click, you flick and click at the same time, and then you rely on your follow-up shots. So that's a sign of poor lines is something I would work on Pokeball, but also it's a sign of you need reflex style of scenarios, because you need something that challenges you, because you flick and click at the same time, and that's like how you naturally aim. I'd also work on some movement tracking, because I think you struggle a lot when moving and shooting. What I would recommend you guys do, look at this. We can just take a look at this clip. What I recommend you guys do for any of these clips is to slow down the speed. Now we can see his first shot here being beside the head. So he's stopped now. He's fully stopped. And instead of moving his mouse now to the enemy, he's going to shoot. And now he's going to adjust. So you see that he adjusts after he's shooting. And that is, for me, a typical sign of reflex style of aim. You have unclean lines, as you said. I don't see any curving. I see that you're shooting before clicking. And you probably could do really well with precision tracking, and some movement tracking. I can't speak. This is going to be on the fly, so shit like this is going to happen. Who cares? So look at this. You get the kill here, and then when you flick, when you're supposed to adjust to him, you sort of just throw your mouse into the air anywhere near the guy. Oops. And then you're like, your brain is like, I'll adjust. The issue is that your adjustments are inaccurate and slow. So your follow-up shots probably would have hit that. But to summarize, you most likely have slow micros. You have slow micros, unclean lines, and you struggle with movement and precision tracking. What I would do is I would load up some target switching, some precision target switching. I would load up some pokeball scenarios for you. Anything that's very normal pokeball. And I would also work on microstatic, something like 5 sphere, extra small. I would add precision tracking. I would add reflex style of scenarios and some movement scenarios for you. That's like the basics of what I saw. All right, let's look at this. This guy didn't write anything. Dest with the static VOD. All right. Look at this flick right here. He has the similar problem, and this is a very similar problem, where you, instead of trying to flick to the target, you try to flick near the target. Okay, and this is a very, very common issue where you're sort of just throwing your crosshair out there. What then happens is the exact same thing as we see with our friend Chip here, is where in game you throw your crosshair out there and you don't have the time to adjust. So you also have unclean lines and you have slow micros. For you, it's more clear since it's a static VOD. I would just spam a smaller pokeball. So spam 1x6 targets extra small in Pokeball form. Because when the bots are close together like this, you struggle a lot less. You can also try spamming some wide wall scenarios, which would be beneficial, because you can see when the targets are close like this, you struggle less, but the flicks that are wide apart, you struggle a lot more, like this one. Look at these 3 flicks were all like decent, but this one was, you're just flicking out there. Again, I'm trying to keep it short on everyone so everybody gets a little bit of a taste. Oh, he wrote something. I feel like I'm stuck in static. I want to improve my accuracy and increase the speed of my flicks. If you want to do that, I would follow the exact same advice as I gave Chip. TS Pokeball, stick to the basics, and play extra small. And for you specifically, spam wide wall scenarios, trust me. Jag says 75 hertz, 30 centimeters. The previous scores are from turning off VSync. All right, VSync gamer. You just have bad reactive. And you struggle less with the... This is the thing that people struggle to understand. He doesn't struggle too much with tracking after reacting. So his smoothness is okay, right? In quotes, okay. The main issue is his reactive, and we can see that by doing this. Look when he, if you go back, his crosshair is always 1 step behind. So the bot has moved directions and his crosshair is still in space. That's your issue. How you work on that is spamming reactive strafes, close fast strafes, kind of mid strafes, ascended tracking, even stuff like that could work, but that's more smoothness. And work on SIA. Trust me, do close fast strafes easy on with the SIA method. So you see that his actual smoothness is okay. He does have some under tracking issues, and the way that we see he has some under tracking issues is because he's shaking a lot inside of the bot, and he's often tracking on the target, but often he's right on the edge of the target. So I would try focusing. I'm gonna aim at the center of the bot. That's what I would do if I was you. All right, moving on because we have so many clips. Gata 6 Underground Shadow. He has some Apex gameplays played for us. Let's see. If you just want one tip for Apex, just like a general tip, it's just to spam strafes. It's literally the best tips I could ever give you. All right, so I watched some of this guy's clips, and this is something I can think everybody needs to hear when it comes to tracking heavy games. So he's gonna go ahead and fight this guy over here. And he has about 16 bullets in his clip. Now it takes him about 6 bullets to actually just reach the target. So he shoots, and around bullet 12 or 10, well, it's 12 now, he starts reaching the target. Imagine if those first 3 to 4 bullets were on target, you would have killed him by now. So first shot accuracy is very important, even in games like Apex. I looked a lot at your clips, my friend, and if I could just give you one quick tip, you just need to spam reactive strafes. That's literally all you need to do. Spam reactive strafes and spam movement tracking. Why? Because those are your biggest struggles. I would also work a little bit on your first shot accuracy, and I think that will indirectly help your tracking. You don't really struggle too much with too bad with smoothness, but you could definitely see how your movement is hindering you a lot. Because when you fight someone, you're spamming AD almost, and your reactive ability cannot handle that. So for you, I wouldn't hyper focus on anything hard. See there, that smoothness kill was completely fine. But when you get into an AD gunfight, that's when you struggle, and usually your movement is the part that's holding you back specifically. So if I had to set up a plan for you, quote unquote, I would include a little bit of target switching and static, a little bit of that, and I would mainly include a lot of reactive strafes, a lot of movement strafes, and some precision tracking, because sometimes you trail behind the enemy. That's just a quick tip for you since we have so many. Yui says, my static is kind of fucked, highest 145k, 6-shot ultimate one, blah 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 blah, not improving at all. Okay, I mean, your flicks look okay, you have decent lines. Like the other guy, you struggle a little bit on the wider targets. The main issue that I see for you is that you're not reaching the targets fast enough. Your lines are actually pretty solid. How do we see that? Because you're reaching the pretty near the target consistently, and sometimes you even land on the target. Your micros are also very clean. not clean, but they're solid. Why? Because it almost looked like you're doing one flick, but I can see that you're doing 2 flicks. So that's how you see that the micros are pretty quick, are pretty good. However, I think the main issue that you have is speed. And now if I had to guess, I could almost tell that you're not pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. If you want to get better at this, I would play other scenarios that pushes you out of your comfort zone. Anything that's reflex heavy, anything that's like, for example, I have this scenario created, 4BK reflex firework TS or something like that. That's really good. You have the reflex firework flick is really good. Stuff like this that sort of forces you to just flick really fast. Any type of low TTK target switching will also be goaded for you. We have map aimbots. How do I get 1300? All right. He's Jade. See, the issue, if you compare your aim to his aim, to Yui's aim, Yui had a lot cleaner lines than you have. That's the first target I would address. And you could see, look at your flicks that you're doing if you watch them in slow motion. You over flick there, you slowly micro adjust, and you're over or under flicking all the time. While if you slow down Yui's clips, I don't think you can slow down on this, but you can see that Yui's clips is a lot cleaner and he's micro adjusting a lot better as well. So for you specifically, spam pokeball. Just spam pokeball, trust me. Can't get past 1300. Everybody wants to get past 1300 on this. You have somewhat better lines. The issues that you have is your micros are very apparently slow. And since I've taken such long time on other people, if I just had to give you one tip, spam any type of micro scenario. That includes static micros, that include pokeball micros, and more importantly, play any type of target switching that forces you to flick and adjust. So any type of 180 target switching would be beneficial, but also very small targets, like Vox TS Mini is a small target switching scenario. That would help you. Aim duel in Fortnite. Let's watch. This is City. Wait, let's watch this again. There's a lot of reactive here, and he's actually doing a good job keeping his target, keeping his crosshair on the target. You're moving and tracking very well. Like your movement is, compared to the Apex guy, your movement and tracking is very solid. If I had to say one thing though, it's almost like you're shaking a little bit, and I don't think you're shaking because you shake. I think you shake because you struggle a lot with this skill. So it's a difficult scenario and it's a challenge. So that's why you shake and not because you have shaky aim. However, if I had just had to give one tip to you, instead of spamming reactive tracking, I would maybe spam precision tracking for you. Because any type of smoothness scenario that also works your under tracking, I think will make your aim look cleaner. Side. What is this virus link? Folder not found. Sorry, side. Virus. Yeah, I just got a virus. Gray. DM VOD. I really struggle with AD spamming. It feels like he goes left, I shoot right. He goes right, I shoot left. All right, let's take a look again. All right, so take a couple look at these clips. The issue is that you're clicking before you're adjusting. Even with that clip, you're just throwing your crosshair out there, which is a very common Valorant issue. Look at where you're shooting and where your starting point is. You're very comfortable just clicking and hoping you'll hit the target instead of actually aiming, which is why I harp on a hit confirmation a lot all the time. So in static, try to confirm your shots a lot. That will help you with this. You're also, it's not that you struggle adjusting, it's that you don't adjust at all. See, this is where I understand what you mean. You say I go left, he goes right, whatever you said. I understand. The issue that you have is not reactive. You don't struggle with reactive. Like, maybe I haven't seen you reactive, but most likely what you need is speed, because you're not struggling reacting to his changes of movement. You're struggling adjusting quick enough to his movement. So you need some speed target switching. And if you want purely tracking, something tracking for Valorant, similar to our friend over here who does Fortnite, Spam precisions. Trust me, spam precision. All right, Potato Slayer asks, how do I improve my static? Let's take a look. He's playing my DKP playlist. Solid goat. You just need to play more wide wall. And you need to play extra wide wall, smaller targets, because you struggle a lot with these wider swings. Again, you guys might think I'm repeating myself, but it's the same issues that are reoccurring, and that's why I'm saying it. So if we take a look at these 2 kills, they're solid. But once you start flicking, once you start going to this spot over here, you start over flicking heavily, and that's because you're just throwing your crosshair out there. You're not used to these wider flicks. If I was you, play wide wall 3 targets extra small, and also pokeball extra small. Let's watch rank quiz. You lack a lot of raw reactive. You can see that immediately. This is a very smoothness based scenario, and you struggle with reactive. Play easier reactive is all you need. Any type of strafes. Yeah, this is a bit too hard for you, but it's okay to use hard scenarios as long as it's like 1 or 2. If you play an easy scenario and then you have an easy playlist, and then you have 1 or 2 or even 3 scenarios that are too hard for you, that's okay, because you're sort of pushing yourself. You just need basics of tracking. I know you did the whole dodge playlist thing, which was a good playlist, but you need very basics of tracking, and people are very scared to attack these basics. Basics of reactive strafes and basics of smoothness is what I would give you. Let's see here, Zach Chun. I keep having this reoccurring issue where for some reason I register where the target is but don't move my crosshair, and this happens. Would also appreciate if there's anything else to note in order to make. Just reading this, usually this is a hit confirmation issue when you play static, but let's see. Oh. This was weird. It's like you're moving and you're almost waiting for him to fall into your crosshair, and you don't adjust quick enough. So you're moving, but you don't moving your mouse at all. Movement tracking is solid for that specific scenario, but let's take a look at if there's anything else. Your lines were unclean there. You saw a couple of, in generally 99.99% of Valorant people struggle a lot with their initial shot, much more than Counter-Strike players. You see there, this is a prime example. Oops, let's go back to that. This guy is standing completely still. You hit him very well. The other people who are moving, you struggle with. So what does that tell you? You need to attack some tracking, some precision tracking. So if I would just say 1 or 2 things about your aim, work on your lines, work on, you're also not adjusting at all. So work on proper like micro scenarios, work on precision tracking and movement tracking. All right, we have PGTI. PGTI is the most annoying thing to do. Help, 30 centimeters, Frogger. So we see when the bot is at the top of the pattern, you struggle a lot less. You're resetting your mouse a lot. But I think this is a little bit too hard for you personally. I would do the easy version of this. I'd also work assisting skills, meaning you work something like popcorn extra small, the vertical one that just goes up and down. I would also work on stuff like PTI or bounce 180, stuff that generally moves in a similar pattern, because this is a little bit too hard for you, and I wouldn't spam this scenario. I would spam the assisting skills. How should I move optimally on a target like this? Jag tracking, I don't want to mirror entry. Okay, yeah, you're mirroring a lot. Don't mirror. This is mirroring, where you and the enemy moves in the same direction. What this does is nothing. You're not working on anything right now. You want to move in the opposite direction. So he moves left, you move right. That's what anti-mirroring is. Generally, the same we saw with your other clip. Look at where your crosshair is. You're leaving your crosshair in space while the other enemy has switched directions and he's already on the other side of the map. You lack raw reactive. Spam reactive strafes. Amp, scout duels TF2 are supposed to be good practice, but after a couple of matches I start to feel horrible, so might be a fatigue issue. I don't know what to work on. I do I do bad, especially when the targets get close or we're trading hits, but my opponent's centering is a lot better. Just from reading what you're saying, it might be a fatigue and maybe even a pressure issue more than a raw aim issue, but let's see. Is this like a shotgun? I don't play TF2. You're heavily under tracking. You react, or like your brain recognizes that, oh, the guy has switched directions, but you're tracking behind him. You're always trailing behind him. Well, and that makes it way harder to land your initial shot. So if I just had to give you one quick issue, the only thing, well, not the only thing, a really good thing that you need is any type of swave track scenario, precision track scenario, and stuff like that. This seems to be very tracking intensive, and I also think you need a lot more basics. The movement speed is super fast. I don't know your skill level, but it looks like you're a bit of a beginner. If you're not a beginner and you're more of an intermediate player, try my Smoothness Fast playlist. It's really good for specifically this sort of stuff. Been stuck on the scenario for God knows how long, can't seem to improve my scores on it, and advice would be greatly appreciated. All right, so mini phase is sort of a scenario which has different phases. It's a really cool scenario actually. But this is really good because we can typically see which phase you struggle with. And right now, the bots are massive and you're still missing your shot. What does that tell you? The bots are big and they're far apart and I'm still missing. You probably need some larger targets. That's how you need to start at least. You're not landing on the targets, and the targets are way bigger than a head would be in game. So how do you expect to then hit a target, in game? These ones, your micros are a lot better. This isn't really super micro heavy, but it is a lot better than your wider ones. You're also moving more carefully here. So probably you need wide wall and larger targets. You struggle with this as well. There's a pokeball version of this called pokeball one wall, two targets alternating. That would really try it for specifically this phase, as your lines are not clean. See, when you're playing this, you're flicking and you're adjusting and you're taking your time a little bit more when it's easy precision dynamic. And that's the mentality that I want you to have when playing even larger targets. Because if we compare this, look at how you flick, you chill, you track a little bit, and then you click. And then we compare this, where you're sort of just throwing your crosshair out there and trying to go as fast as possible instead of confirming I'm on target and then clicking exactly as you do in your dynamic. I have an issue with counter-strafing exchanges. I feel like I just can't hit them sometimes. Any help with this? A lot of what you see as counter-strafe issues are usually precision tracking related because the heads are pretty small and there's minimal reactive and stuff like this. It's usually a smoothness issue. I could tell you that isn't a tracking issue, that's an overall aim issue. The clip I just saw. Like, a lot of you guys don't have any aim and you try to hyper focus on, oh, I can't hit counter strafe issues, that's why I'm bad. No, you're bad because you don't have any skill, and I don't mean that in a harsh way, but it's better to be brutally honest, right? All right, from taking a couple of looks at your clips, you don't have a problem with counter-strafing, you have a problem with overall aim. As I said, I would work on anything that's basic. I would work on stuff like my super beginners, my zero to hero, HNA routines are really good. My DKP routines are really good as well. My CS2 one-tap machine is really good. Anything that's very basics and includes a lot of pokeball, flicking, and static. That's what I would work for you. You don't have an issue with counter strafes, you have an issue with your aim. Trying to improve my static. All right, so similar to the Yui guy, you have solid lines, meaning look at where he lands. He lands very close to the target and he adjusts very quickly. Those are two great signs we want to see. What I want you to take a look at also from this guy is that his natural speed is pretty solid, meaning he's pushing speed and he's still landing close to the target. If I had to say one thing about your aim, it's not your flicking technique, it's not your micros. They could arguably be better, obviously, but that's not the main point. The main point is your accuracy. You flick and you just sort of accept that you're going to click. You're flicking, adjusting even, and then clicking without confirming. So you're just because you have moved in the pattern that I have flicked and adjusted, you then have taught your brain that you must click, when that's not how static should be played for in-game benefit. For in-game benefit, well, this was a great run, like obviously, but for in-game benefit, you want to imagine that you're flicking and then you're confirming that you're on target before clicking. But right now you sort of have this habit of, I'm just gonna flick and click, sort of. So I want you to take a split second to confirm that you're on target before clicking. Stuff like one wall, four targets, a barred pill work really well on this. And that's, it's not going to give you good results. It's not going to give you good scores, but in game, you're going to be a lot better. And over time, if you use this visual confirmation, as I like to call it, you're going to be golden. Also try, what helps this is easier precision, easier dynamic also strongly helps this. Because you have decent lines, they do need to be worked on, but you have decent lines. If I just have to give you short tips, extra small pokeball, micro pokeball. You have solid speed, so target switching shouldn't be a super priority, but you can use it to help. Confirm your shots before clicking, and what was the last thing? Precise dynamic. That forces you, or easy precise dynamic, that forces you to flick and track for a little bit and then click. So you're sort of in the habit of staying consistent rather than just I flick and I move and then I have to click. Scenarios like these, found myself struggling a lot. 1 out of 3 watched muted because of it. All right, this is too hard for you. And we had somebody up here who struggled with a lot of reactive. You struggle with tracking after reacting. So you have reacted and then you struggle with tracking afterwards. That tells us two things. You're under tracking, which is a smoothness issue, and the bot is thinner. You're also lacking in your ability to flick back onto the target. Your raw reactive is solid, but you're trailing behind the target all the time. Quick tip, work on any type of under tracking, smoothness fast, for example, my playlist there, swave track, any type of centering, any type of precision tracking as well is always solid. His glider game playlist watched. See, this is looking a lot better because the movement speed is a lot slower. So I want you to work on more slower moving targets and then start working yourself up to faster stuff like this, because this is a little bit too hard for you. When you're playing these scenarios, I want you to center your crosshair all the time. So if you flick this guy, you shouldn't keep your, see what he did there? He brought his crosshair back to the middle. That's what I want you to do. I don't want you to just keep your crosshair here. You should flick back to the middle and wait for the bot to respawn. You struggle heavily with this, and a lot of people do, when there's no pathing involved, meaning you lack a lot of information. And I wouldn't work a reflex style of aim for you. I would work scenarios that are pokeball, about one wall, one target, and static, that is one wall, one target. I wouldn't necessarily work this type of aim for you specifically because it's slightly too hard. It says you lack this ability to, oh, there's a guy, this pop of information, I have to react to that. You're probably more used to, there's 6 balls on my screen and I have to click all of them. So just have one ball and one target on the screen. And my latest video actually attack some of those scenarios. So shortly to summarize, you're under tracking, work any type of easier precision and any type of easier, not easier smoothness, but anything that will challenge your under tracking, something like swave track, and work one wall, one targets for pokeball, target switching, and static, and don't make it too difficult. Don't make it reflex heavy for you at this moment. All right, let's take a look at paint here. See, this guy struggles a lot less with his smoothness because he's tracking well. He's smoothly tracking the bot, which is a really good sign. The problem is that, similar to Jag, he's leaving his crosshair in the, so the target switch directions. It's hard to see without the slow. The target switches directions and he fails to then adjust and react quick enough. You need harder reactive. Long strafes are not for you. What I would work on for you is any type of fast strafe scenarios, mid-range fast strafes, close fast strafes, try SYA, MFSI, all of these basic reactivity scenarios, and I would drop the long strafes for a while. So we're looking at Val right now. And I know he's an Overwatch player, so his clicking is going to be a little bit worse. But if you can see at this clip, right, or this flick right here, we can see a couple of things. And it's mainly in his micros, but how he micros. He flicks again, and then he clicks. So he's hitting these multiple micros where he's flicking and then adjusting multiple times instead of just flicking once and then adjusting smoothly. So the issue is that he's not accurately hitting his micros. It's not only a speed issue in his micros, it's the accuracy of the micros. And how do we work that? Smaller, very small pokeball scenarios, extra small. Wide wall scenarios like this one are great. Anything that's extra small there. Any type of target switching that is 180 form. And also, actually, I would work stuff that challenges your tracking a little bit. I know he has good tracking, but any type of region tracking. Why? Because it forces you to do these smaller micro adjustments to stay on target and be more stable all the time. And that's sort of correlated. Overflick again with the micros, failure to react after flicking. So his micros are kind of slow there. Poorer lines. You're failing to flick and track a lot, and that's a telltale sign for me that you need to work on stuff like Smoothbot TS. Tunes TS is a really good one. There's so many good ones out there, but I can't remember. But any type of scenario that forces you to flick and then track would be solid for you. All right, so compared to the other people, you can see that this guy has pretty solid reactive. He's losing track of the target at times, but he's reacting quick enough, meaning the target switches directions and so does his mouse. So how do we then go to work on somebody who has pretty good raw reactive? He's obviously losing track of the target, but he's better than your average reactive player. You work or you mix in hard scenarios, something like LDDH, any type of raspberry scenario. You work on SYA, for example, because you see that the bot does a pattern and he does very well. And as soon as the bot switches up his pattern, that's when he's heavily struggles. So you're aiming well as long as the bot is in a pattern, and that's how you're used to, like your mouse is moving in this pattern, so it's going well. Play scenarios that have absolutely no pattern and are super difficult, and mix them in with your tracking, with your normal tracking. See, minimal under tracking here is pretty good because it's a very hard scenario, so obviously they build some. You're not shaking too much, you're shaking a little bit, but it's obviously nothing I would worry about. This scenario is looking good, no comment. So now we have cat junk. So you're shaking a little bit there, you're matching the speed well at times, but most of the times you're shaking and not matching it well at all. If I just had to say one thing, you need to play an easier version of this. Centering 1 is what I would play. Solid reactive, but look, when he gets in this pattern where he does very small strafes, you do well because you're just following, your mouse is just doing a specific pattern that you have learned. But when he starts switching his pattern and doing these mid-range strafes, you struggle a lot because your mouse is still moving in the same way that the old pattern is. So you've learned the pattern that the bot moves in the first way, and you're still moving like that instead of adjusting and sort of, you're predicting. Shortly said, you're predicting. And what I would do for you personally is, this is a very tough scenario, but you're also lacking, you're both lacking in raw reactive and in tracking afterwards, but it's expected for this scenario. I would play easier stuff for you personally. I think those types of scenarios, the previous ones, are just a little bit too difficult for you. I wouldn't play this. And maybe you had one or two of these harder scenarios, but I would stick to the easier stuff. See, you're playing this almost like it's Pokeball, where you're like dragging your hand through water and you're slowly moving to each ball. That is wrong. You want to add a little bit more of a snap to it. If I had to guess, you're probably meaning some form of tracking game, just based off how your clicking is. Your clicking isn't that bad. The problem is that I think when you will be pushed in speed, your lines will falter a lot more because you're very careful in your clicking. So try to push yourself a little bit more and try to get out of your comfort zone. That's what I would recommend. Because you're moving very carefully, and that's fine. It's just an issue that when you're in an actual, gunfight in a game, all this careful stuff is going to go right out the window, and your flaws are going to be exposed a lot more. So play something that pushes you a little bit more, or ideally push yourself more. Your lines are okay, but I think when you will play something like low TTK, Vox TS low TTK, and push yourself in speed and watch yourself how your lines will falter. You're under tracking heavily. You need more basics and you need easier scenarios. If I had to say something, try SYA with Smooth Bot. That is really good. You're under tracking sometimes and you're shaking inside of the bot, both on centering and on this one. Precision tracking and under tracking are your issues. You struggle with a lot of things, but in static, push yourself more, play low TTK TS. In smoothness, play your under tracking and more precision tracking. And in reactive, play easier reactive. Sinid, the GOAT. So the issue you're doing, if you take a look at this, it's not the tracking afterwards. When you're flicking to a new enemy, you sort of shake and you're sort of confused to, shit, where do I flick now? And then you catch the enemy and then you smoothly track him. So look when you switch targets here. Sort of just flicking, struggling, and then, oh, he's moving smoothly, then I can track him well. So you struggle mainly in the reactive department of the flick. Not that you struggle with reactive, but you struggle with catching up to changes in movement, minimal changes in movement. What I would do for you personally is play smoothness scenarios that are fast smoothness scenarios. So something like close long strafes faster is really good. And also play more stuff like air angelic, control sphere, any type of micro tracking scenario is what I would recommend for you. Anything that forces you to do these smaller changes in direction, because mainly you struggle with flicking and then adjusting to this change of movement. You can also try playing something some harder dynamic like pipe click, for example, that has a lot of changes in direction, and that might indirectly help this. Number one, please remove this gun model and don't play black bars. Play the default 1920 regardless of what you play in your game. You're probably a CS player. So you have good natural speed. That is excellent. We want good natural speed. It's some of the hardest things to get. The issue is opposite to the other guy that we see here, this guy had a lot of troubles with pushing himself. You don't have that problem, which is excellent because it exposes your flaws. And when you expose your flaws, you will naturally learn better because your brain isn't dumb. So if I had to work on one or two things for you, usually the basics, because you will learn well over time without any technique, purely just because you push speed. However, you land well when the targets are horizontal to each other, but when you go up and down, you struggle a lot more. What I would do for you, spam pokeball and spam these types of target switching scenarios. And for you personally, since you have good speed, don't be afraid to make the targets smaller. Don't be afraid, specifically in your clicking, because you have natural good speed, should play slightly harder flicking scenarios, because you'll eventually and naturally learn, because you have this natural speed ability. So stuff like this that is pivot easy, even though this scenario, even though your aim skills are not quite there yet, they will come there naturally if you just use a little bit harder scenarios. Like pivot hard, for example, is solid. Other than that, your lines are poor, your micros are slow. You struggle with handling your speed even though you have natural speed. So larger targets, larger static targets, smaller target switching, and some pokeball. Try something like my cluster TS. All right, please remove these lines. This laser, please remove it. This theme is really good. Lower the brightness, however. It's not a big deal, but just do it, trust me. Let's take a look at his actual aim. This is a very easy scenario, but look at where your crosshair is and look what the enemy is. And you struggle to react to that. A lot of people like today that have struggled with raw reactive. This is a good scenario, but you might need to isolate a little bit more. Isolate specifically on reactive scenarios and reactive strafes, and don't make them too hard because you're obviously a beginner. But stuff like this doesn't really challenge you in the same way. I would skip the gauntlet scenarios for now and focus much more on isolating those raw reactive scenarios. any type of close long strafes and add in a little bit of easier fast strafes, shortly said, and remove that damn laser, please. It's a very, very slow moving and easy scenario, and you're still struggling. So you're shaking inside of the bot. I mean, overall, you just need more basics, and I think you need a mixture of scenarios that are easy but also push yourself, because I think you need something else that pushes you out of your comfort zone a little bit and gets you to that next stage, because I can see the way that you're aiming is very careful, and it's centering, any type of reactive long strafes, and any type of play air angelic easy, for example. Keep it basic, keep it simple, and spam. If I was you, I would spam scenarios like 3 to 5 runs minimum. All right, so if I just had to make a couple of quick comments, number one is that you struggle with the precision part of this, where you're shaking inside of the bot. Play smaller scenarios, not up and down scenarios, but just more precision tracking. Make your hit marker durability also like shorter, because often when the crosshair is not on target, your hit marker is still active. So play more precision, I would recommend. Close, fast, easy, good raw reactive. You're reacting well to the target. He moved out of pattern there, so you were struggling a little bit. For people who struggle with pattern-based scenarios, play more gauntlet style of scenarios. Unlike the other guy needed to isolate more on scenarios that you're playing now, you need more variety that gauntlet scenarios can provide. And also try SYA on that. God damn, you're snapping hard. All right, so you're snapping way too hard. That's the number one thing I would say to you. And when you snap this hard, your crosshair is never on target. You're consistently off, meaning you really need to work on cleaner lines. You need to chill on the snaps a little bit and try to keep even flicking speed. Also, how do you have 800 FPS? You're just flicking, like you're just moving your mouse instead of moving the mouse towards the target. You're just flicking and, oh, I'll adjust later. That's not really how you want to do things at your skill level. So yeah, work on relaxing, even strafes, even flicking speed, and work on pokeball. If I was you, I would focus on the easier version of this. You need slightly, for the smoothness, you need slightly easier scenarios. For reactive, you need more gauntlet style of scenarios. For your clicking, you need to focus on your chill out with the snapping and work more on pokeball. Also focus more on visual confirmation, because you have very low accuracy for clicking. With this precise orb, I would focus on precision tracking more, and also any type of under tracking. Work on more UFO scenarios. You struggle with that a lot. See, when it's like this, you do fine, but you work on more UFO scenarios for that bot specifically. You could also work to isolate things like VT Plaza 1 only. Work on more like evasive style of tracking, like air angelic and control sphere, anything that is pass through track V2, anything like that. Because you struggle more with air than Plaza, it looks like. You struggle more with reacting to smaller changes in movement, rather. So your smoothness is decent. You have pretty solid smoothness. The issue is that when the bot changes directions a little bit, you sort of shake and struggle to recatch that bot. Work on precision. New tracking clips. You struggle less with the smoothness part, but a little bit with that too. Work on more basic tracking reactive scenarios. You need more of stuff like this, where it's smaller changes in movements and precision tracking. What is the scenario? It's pretty good. We sphere slope. Yeah, good scenario. Work on more stuff like this, but that is smaller and slower. You have very good smoothness. I think your main struggle is more with raw reactive strafes, to be honest, and that's what I would focus on. Job smooth bot, just short of master. Your smoothness is fine. Your smoothness is great. The problem is when it changes directions like that, you struggle, similar to that other guy. So smoothness is not an issue for you, but recatching the bot is. Also, these smaller changes in directions you struggle with a little bit more. I would work on playing more air style of scenarios that changes these, that targets more of these smaller changes in direction. Something like air angelic, for example, or fug like YC. Done.